Hi again, everybody. Jeremy Plonk from First Bet and Express Bet, joined by Jeff Siegel every Friday for the First Call podcast, where we handicap at least 8 stakes races each Saturday. We've got a lot to choose from this weekend, Jeff, and the Arlington Million finds a new home. It's actually the fourth home for the Arlington Million over the years. Of course, everybody remembers Arlington Park last year at Churchill Downs. Some forget the year after the fire at Arlington, they ran a Arlington Million the next year at Woodbine. So that's the third. And now Colonial Downs, the home of the Arlington Million. It's still the Million, Jeff, but it just feels a little different.
Well, it is different for one thing. I mean, I remember back in the 80s when it became the first $1 million race and you had all these Euros. One of my greatest scores was teleprompter, gate to wire, the old handicapper. Made a lot of money. I think he paid $35 that day. So it's always been dear to my heart. Of course, had the good fortune of actually winning it with Star Cozine in the early 90s. That was fun when Lure scratched because it was wet ground. We were looking forward to beating him. He kind of chickened out a little bit, but he got his later on, so I'm not going to knock Lure for sure. But no, it's always been one of my favorite races, and we've got one here, and it's a good gambling race. I'll say that because I know I like a horse on that race, and I think you probably give him a shot as well. We'll get to him in a minute. And then you've got the Beverly D. And I'll tell you a funny story about the Beverly D. I actually owned a filly named Iridescence who ran in it in the early 2000s. And I owned her. And I was also on set at HRTV when it was running. So I had to play it straight while the race was going on. And then she's leading all the way to the last 50 yards or so. And I can't remember her name. Nailed her right on the line, and they came back to the camera, and I'm saying, I have to act like I'm happy, like I was going to throw something at the camera, in my head, figuring how much money did I just lose, So I remember both these races pretty well, but it's a good to see them continue on, and we've got good racing for good cards and entries for both of those races. Grass and 2-year-olds this week, Jeremy. That's what we'll be looking at real closely.
Let's go through the rundown for the fans here who are following along on the audio podcast, as well as those of you watching on video on YouTube and other channels. At Colonial Downs, we will handicap the Secretariat, the Beverly D, and Arlington Million. They'll be run in succession in races 8, 9, and 10 on an 11-race card Saturday afternoon at Colonial. To Saratoga for the 4-star day, one of the top turf races of the meet there at the Spa. Let's cross our fingers. We're on the grass this weekend at Saratoga. At Del Mar, the Sorrento for the 2-year-old fillies, and then the Philly Ameriturfers get after it in the yellow ribbon. Those are the Saturday co-features on the West Coast. Sunday, we've got a couple races for you, both in the 2-year-old ranks. The fillies get their shot at Ellis Park in the Ellis Park Debutante, one of 6 straight stakes races on the card at Ellis Park. Big day there on Sunday. And at Del Mar on Sunday, it'll be the best pal for 2-year-olds. Prep race there towards the Del Mar Futurity at season's end. So as Jeff mentioned, a lot of turf, a lot of 2-year-olds. It's that time of year. It's summer. We should have good grass racing everywhere, and we should have the 2-year-olds kicking up their heels, and we certainly have that. So let's start things off with Colonial Downs on Saturday, Jeff. It's the Secretariat Stakes, our first handicapping chore. Race number 8 on the card. This used to be 1.25 miles on the turf when it was at Arlington. Now the race is shortened to 1 mile, and a lot of the horses you look at in this race would have been probably just fine had this race been at the old 1.25 miles. So who's the miler in here? Who's the fast horse, the fleet horse that we want to look at over the 8 furlongs? I know Northern Invader certainly caught your eye last time.
Well, we actually featured him as a future star of the future, Northern Invader, when he broke his maiden by 8 lengths. You don't often see any grass race on firm ground. Sometimes you see it on soft, but you don't see too many 8-length winners in a grass race. It just doesn't happen. They usually bunch, they usually go slow, and then they usually not usually, but often will finish in kind of a heap. But Northern Invader won this race by 8. That's kind of like a 16-length win on the dirt. Yeah. And boy, did he look good doing it. Just his 3rd career start. A collected colt, beautiful mover, good tactical speed, can drop his head, relax, and then blast home. And he certainly did that when he broke his maiden. And it's not surprising to me that he's going from a maiden race to a grade 2. That's how impressive I thought he was.
Let's look at the Cherie DeVoe trainee last time out at Belmont Park in that smashing 8-length win.
Paxational, Northern Invader, Gold Franc. Those 3 are all together. Right to Win is in 5th. Then Way Hill Road. They are at the top of the stretch. It is Fast Boat to Sky. Here's Northern Invader now on the outside up to take the lead. Northern Invader is in front. And then it is a fast boat to Sky. Down on the inside is Gold Frank, followed by Right to Win. And on the far outside, it is Torigo. But in the meantime, Northern Invader has blown this one wide open. Northern Invader, much the best here to break his maiden.
So smashing winner there, Northern Invader, for the colors of West Point Thoroughbreds. John Velasquez has the mount back after winning last time. Now, this is a race that's got some big-name barns to it, so maybe you get your price on Cherie DeVoe and Northern Invader in here. You've got Major Dude for Todd Pletcher. You've got Charlie Appleby with Silver Knot, third time here in the U.S. for that one. Grand Motion has Negarok in here, a horse who's usually well-backed at the windows, favored in 4 straight, and the morning line favorite is Negarok as well. So what kind of price do you want on Northern Invader, and what do you expect?
I don't think he'll be 8-1, which is what he is on the morning line. Probably half that, I would think. This is a very capable outfit, even though it's not a big name type of barn. But Northern Invader is getting better with every start. The 94 buyer number is equal to what More Than Looks has, and I think is he not staying at Saratoga? I think he might be. So I'm not sure if he's going to be there or not. But anyway, Northern Invader, though, if that's the case, will get play. And certainly I like the fact that he's got that perfect style for a miler where he can lay close up in hand, and then he can give you that sub 24 last quarter without really trying. And he pressed stalked a hot pace in that race, so he can take fast fractions if that's what happens. But if they go slow, that's fine too. So yeah, 4-1 to me would be fine. I would take that.
I would take a value play on Mo Stash in here as well. I think this is a horse that will get overlooked on the tote, but he's got good early speed. He always runs his race. The mile should suit him perfectly. Florent Giroux, a good front-end turf jock in this race. I think he'll make the lead in the inside in here, and I give Mo Stash a chance to go a long ways. I'm with you, though. I like Northern Invader. I like Mo Stash. Those are the two I prefer most in here, and maybe we can get a little bit of a price if Negarok gets bet, Major Dude's going to get bet, and hopefully they go back to the well one more time with Jamie Spencer and Charlie Appleby on Silver Knot, who really has under-delivered in 2 races so far in the United States. We'll see. Fool me 3 times, I guess, on Charlie Appleby, then it's our fault at that point if that one delivers. Let's move our attention now to the fillies and mares, the Distaff turfers at Colonial Downs. I got to think before saying Arlington Park. At Colonial Downs on Saturday, the Beverly D Stakes, of course, named for Beverly Duchessois, the first lady of Arlington Park, and Dick Duchessois' late wife. The Beverly D Stakes for decades, Jeff, has been one of the top filly and mare turf races, and even really going back to the beginning of the Breeders' Cup era, there was no filly and mare turf in the Breeders' Cup. I believe 99 at Gulfstream might have been the very first one of those. Yeah. So for a time, the Beverly D was the race in America, really, for the fillies and mares on the turf. You expect Chad Brown to be loaded in a race like this, but looky here, just Gina Romantica in this spot, as well as Rocky Sky. Chad Brown doesn't have the heavy hand to play in the Beverly D this year, which is a surprise.
It is to me. I don't know exactly what he's got going right now. I know that I actually would have expected some Euro in his barn to make its debut in this race. Not necessarily true, although we've got plenty of European bred fillies and mares in here, but they've been here now for a while. I read your write up on the Beverly D, Jeremy, and you made a very good case for Didia, and I looked at her closely because of that, and you are 100% correct. She is a very major player in this race. I'll let you expand on that, but I ended up going with Fed Rover. But one of the concerns that you had in your write up was that maybe she's had a couple of hard races, and are we going to get the best of the Fev Rover here after running and winning off the layoff in the Nassau, coming back in 2 weeks and then laying her body down in the Diana when she fell short by a half length. I mean, she's had almost a month now to recover, but those kinds of efforts do often take their toll. But I thought she ran really well, especially well in the Diana, because she actually threw a fit in the gate, had to be reloaded. And I remember when that happened, I said to myself, well, she's done. She actually ran really well in that race. She stayed on beautifully. And to be beaten only a half length by those fillies, and In Italian was in there. I mean, to me, if she were capable of running back to that race, or even the one before that in the Nassau at Woodbine, then I think she'll probably win, and that's why I picked her on top. But the one that you like, Didier, has got a really good shot as well.
Yeah, she's just been a win machine since leaving Argentina. She won her final 3 in her homeland, and then she rattled off 4 in a row. 7-race win streak snapped last time out at Belmont over the 1.25 miles. This trip just a little bit shorter, but it's not distance that got her beat last time. She just came up short. Like your filly, Fev Rover, she was antsy in the gate prior to her last start too, Didier. So watching the horses load and warm up will be very important, probably leading into the Beverly D. So keep track with what Caitlin Free, the on-track analyst, and Jason Beam, the track announcer. Any kind of information they can give you as the horses are going to the gate and into the gate could be important to keep an eye on with Fev Rover and Didier. Maybe you want to see who's on their best manners in this race. It looks to me absolutely like a 2-horse race, though, Jeff. I can't see those two both getting beat in this particular spot, even though you got 2 Chad Brown options in here. And from a pick 4 standpoint, and that was what I wrote up for the Express Bet and First Bet blog sections, the pick 4. From a pick 4 standpoint, I didn't want to go too deep and double the race, so I ended up taking Didier in here. But it's absolutely Fev Rover, the other shot in here. It's just kind of deciding between one or the other and not doubling the cost of your ticket. Now, you talked about the good performance last time when third beaten just a half in the Diana, and we talk about Chad Brown doesn't have his A-listers in this race. He did have him in the Diana, and that's where Fev Rover kind of really made her hay with a good third-place finish.
There at the top of the stretch, White Beam firing a big shot on the outside of In Italian. In Italian a length. White Beam on the outside, market segmentation, trying to get by Fev Rover for third. Coming to the 16th pole, In Italian set down. White Beam trying to get her. In Italian ahead, White Beam. Big effort from Fev Rover. In Italian, White Beam a final try. White Beam in Italian in a photo finish in the Diana. Fev Rover a solid third.
A very solid third there behind the 2 Chad Brown trainees in the Diana. We will see the class of the Filly and Mare Turf division come to the fore here between last week with the Diana, or a couple weeks ago with the Diana, and now with Saturday's Beverly D. These are 2 very key races, and of course, we're going to have the yellow ribbon on the West Coast to talk about a little bit later in this program. So big time of year for the Filly and Mare Turf division to start taking shape. Let's go back to the schedule and talk about what's next here as we handicap on the podcast, the Arlington Million. The Arlington Million, I believe the 30th edition of the Million, 1.25 miles on the turf. It remains its traditional distance. 1.25 miles is just a little over a lap around the turf course at Colonial Downs. Wide, expansive 2 turf courses there at Colonial. Not a lot of local experience, and you would expect that when you get a race of international repute and Grade 1 status. You're not going to get a lot of horses who have experience over the Colonial turf course in past years. We have a little bit of it in here. I believe it's Catnip has a win over the track, breaking the maiden, win for the money, won an allowance race here at Colonial Downs recently, but those weren't the kind of A-level races that some of the others from out of town bring on their resume. Jeff, I don't think there's a standout in this year's Arlington Million. There's not that superstar. There's no bricks and mortar type. There's no Aidan O'Brien horse coming over from Europe. There's no Charlie Appleby in here. This is a really solid group, 4 millionaires among the 11 entered. So you would say that's an excellent group. I think there's 4 or 5 Grade 1 winners in the race, but man, there's just no standout to me.
No, there isn't, and that's why I'm going to go for a price here. I looked at a tone because he was so impressive in the Pegasus World Cup turf. Disappointing in his next 2 starts, though. So this is a race where you see, if you look at a horse's best race, you say to yourself, okay, he can win if he runs back that one. Yeah. But you can say that about all the races, and some of them are up and down. They win, you can't find them. The pace situation, we should have at least a fair pace, if nothing else. So I ended up going with a fresh pace because I see these horses and they keep facing off each other and not going anywhere. This is the colt on the outside. Actually, he's a 6-year-old horse. His name is Adamo, and this is a breeze he had at Saratoga. Now, we haven't seen him since October, so he is fresh. But boy, he looks good to me, Jeremy. This breeze at Saratoga, and he's had a couple of good breezes since then. This one in company, but he looked sharp. He looked eager. He looked fit. I just thought he looks to me like a horse that is doing really well, which is one of the reasons why Chad Brown, who's got great stats with layoff horses, decided to run him 1.25 miles off what was almost a 10-month layoff. And I mean, to me, you look at his form, he's got some back form that's really good as well. Pratt's going to ride him. I just thought that I was going to take a horse. I was going to trust the trainer. I don't think Chad would be running this horse if he didn't think he was ready. And I'm going for him at 10-1 in the morning line. So that's the gamble that I've got. I could, if you had me draw a name out of a hat and may have to make a case for him, I probably could. Any horse in this race. Sure. Why not go for a price? For me, it's number 9 Adamo, and there's others in here you can make a case for just as easily.
Yeah, Adamo's in all my plays too. I think he's definitely a major factor in here. Brown's won the Arlington Million 4 times, most of any trainer. Flavor and Pratt rides. There's a lot to like. And the fact that this horse ran really well off the layoff back in 2022, first time out at Fairgrounds, shows the horse can run off the layoff. We know Chad gets him ready to go off the layoff. And to put a horse in this kind of race with Pratt aboard, like you said, is a pretty confident move. And so I think Adamo is going to run a big race in here. Santine, the defending champion in this race, is 0 for 6, has finished off the board in all 6 starts since winning last year's Arlington Million. He'll try to become the first horse ever to win this race in back-to-back years, and only the second 2-time winner. John Henry, of course, the legend, won this race twice in non-successive years. But Santine is no John Henry. His recent form is no Santine even. So it's hard to like him to come and wake back up. A horse who I think can really make the big perk up is Masterpiece. We saw it last week. Rick Dutrow, second time off the move from Safi Joseph, winning the Whitney last week with the horse who had won the Florida Derby last year. And the name's escaping me, Jeff. Who am I talking about? White
yeah.
Yeah, so it's the same scenario, right? Rick Dutrow takes over for Safi Joseph. They get an easy race in, gets a second place finish in at Belmont. Now, second time Dutrow. I could see this horse making a big move forward. Masterpiece is already a grade 2 winner, so this is not a big step up in class. It's a horse who was in the Breeders' Cup Turf in 2022 there at Keeneland. He's been with 4 different trainers over the last couple of years, so Dutrow seems to have the magic, and he had it last week with White Barrio. I would not be surprised if Masterpiece runs a big race in this spot. I'm looking for this 7-year-old to have a chance flying late. And if you like Adamo, who's going to be coming from off the pace, Masterpiece also will be coming from off the pace. So I think the setup could be good for both of them, because I think there is a fair amount of speed in this race. For 1.25 miles on the turf, this should go along pretty decent, at least average pace, if not a bit quicker than average. So I think both those horses have a big chance late.
No, it's going to be a great race. I love Colonial Downs. I mean, I don't play it that often, and they don't have a long meeting, but when it's on, I watch, and we're going to have a good, clean race, I think, here, and it's going to be an important race. For many of these, this is their time to shine, because, like I say, the Euros haven't shown up for it, but later in the fall, you'll see them.
And we want to remind you that if you play the Colonial Downs card Saturday with First Bet and Express Bet, there's 20,000 good reasons to do so. $20,000 in pick 4 and pick 5 hit and splits are going to be offered on that card Saturday at Colonial Downs. So even the late pick 4, which is races 8 through 11, that's the one I handicapped in the blog section, that's got a $10,000 hit and split extra bonus. So if you hit the late pick 4 Saturday at Colonial Downs and you bet it with First Bet and Express Bet, you're going to split an additional $10,000 just with the fans who hit it on our platforms. So a chance to really take your pari-mutuel earnings and boost them up quite a bit. Overall, the 4 pick 4 and pick 5 sequence bonuses throughout the day total $20,000 in additional money. Check out the promos page at First on the app and also at expressbet.com. Check out the promo page to see the details on which pick 4s and pick 5s have what amount to them. But $10,000 on that late pick 4 races 8 through 11. So a good reason to take a look at that sequence. I've got the 11th race handicapped as well as part of that pick 4 sequence on the blog page. So be sure to check that out. Let's go to Saratoga on Saturday, shall we, for the 4-Star Dave, one of the top grass races of the meet. We haven't had a lot of grass races at Saratoga this meet. They're off the turf with some of them on Friday. Others are staying on the grass. I would suspect that barring any big downpour and deluge, we will have the 4-Star Dave on the grass tomorrow at Saratoga on Saturday. And we've got the defending champ Casa Creed in the race. And Casa Creed's not only familiar with this race, the 4-Star Dave, he's familiar with a lot of the cast in this race. 3 of the top 4 4 from the Kelso are all back in action.
Casa Creed is called on. He's coming with a 3-wide bid. Annapolis will go even wider. Whitecap far outside as the field turns for home. It's still Big Everest clinging to a narrow lead. Casa Creed right to him on the inside. English B. Farther back, Annapolis has a lot of work to do. Casa Creed, a 2-length lead coming to the 16th pole. Annapolis finding his best stride, but it's Casa Creed. Casa Creed, what a classy individual, wins the Kelso.
Formal horse of the meet at Saratoga, but I would tell you this, if Casa Creed can pull the Kelso and 4-Star Dave double, that's going to be awfully tough to top during the course of the meet. Maybe Forte, Jim Dandy Travers, if he's able to pull that off. But 4-Star Dave is a chance for Casa Creed to once again flex his muscles. He's looked good around 1 turn. He's looked good around 2 turns. Jeff, do you see him taking another stakes at the Spa?
I do. And one of the reasons why I have a lot of respect for Annapolis, who we just beat, but the book on Annapolis, at least that's what I was led to believe, is that he really does like it really firm. Doesn't like a lot of give in the ground. And even the last race in the Kelso was not completely firm. And we've had a couple of races as we speak taken off the turf today, Friday, so at Saratoga. So it's obviously not firm. Right. And I think Casa Creed, he'll run on over anything. And it's basically it's the same race as the Kelso. There's, I mean, Casa Creed picks up 1 pound and whoop-de-doo, right? Is that going to make a difference? So I think Casa Creed will probably win again. I don't see any reason why he won't. He's so genuine, so consistent, and so in love with Saratoga's turf course that, I mean, to me, this is actually, I think, an easier spot than he had last year when he won the same race. So if he shows up, and he generally does, I think Casa Creed will win again.
Casa Creed, as you mentioned, won this last year, one of 5 wins for Bill Mott in the 4-Star Dave all time. It's not surprising that Bill Mott has the most wins in a big NYRA turf stakes all time, but he is going for a 6th win. I found this interesting. In the last 7 years of the 4-Star Dave, Jeff, 6 of the winners have either been Bill Mott, Mark Cassey, or Todd Pletcher training. 6 of the last 7 years. Look at this field. There's 7 horses in the race. 6 of them are trained by Todd Pletcher, Mark Cassey, or Bill Mott. They got the darn thing surrounded again. Nobody else is even showing up hardly to take them on. It's the same big 3 in the 4-Star Dave, and they'll go at it once again on Saturday at Saratoga. Let's go out to the West Coast now for Del Mar Stakes race on Saturday that co-feature the Sorrento and the Yellow Ribbon. The Sorrento will be race 6 on the card, the Yellow Ribbon the 9th. Of course, the Sorrento is for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies division. These are 6-furlong sprinters. They may not get all the way to the mile and the 16th of the Juvenile Fillies, but it's a good launching pad towards the Del Mar Debutante, at least at the end of the meet at 7 furlong. So let's see with the Sorrento, who do you like in here on Saturday, Jeff?
I can't believe that, number one, Bob Baffert only has 1 here in this race, and I can't believe I'm not actually picking her. I mean, I'm really bucking the trend with 2-year-olds in California. I ended up going with the number 8 on the program, and that's the City of Light filly named Benedetta. She won her debut at Los Al. She has trained really well since. She's a big, good-looking $750,000 2-year-old in training purchase. And here she is just breezing by herself. This is just kind of a maintenance work that she had not too long ago. And I do think that from that outside, that very favorable outside draw, she's going to be able to kind of draft in and sit right behind the leaders and kick on with it from the outside, which is where most of the winners from Del Mar come from. Also was very impressed, actually, with, believe it or not, a Pleasanton filly named Dreamfire. She's number 2, and she's actually 3-1 on the morning line. Very, very quick, but beat the Colts in her debut, and she was 11-1, and it looked like she won. She should have been like 2-5. Very, very impressive by a very young and very promising young stallion named Flame Away, who is going to be all the rage, I think, at Keeneland in the fall. He's had a couple of really nice horses, first crops, Scat Daddy sire. But with Dreamfire on the inside, having to take all the heat, I think that allowed Benedetta to kind of just sit outside and then launch her bid. And I think she's a good filly, and bred like she is. I don't think 6 furlongs is going to be her best distance. She's obviously can sprint, but she's one that of this group that I kind of expect to go on and do something. Right. So many of these 2-year-olds They're precocious. They can sprint. And then all of a sudden, when the big money comes around 2 turns, you can't find them.
Mhm.
But I do think Benedetta is going to be one that trains on for Simon Callahan, and we'll see how she does here.
And Callahan's had some success. He's won this race in 2018, 2019. These 2-year-old fillies, that's kind of his MO. That's where he gets some of his absolute best runners. This was a $750,000 2-year-old buy. So she's meant to win and win now, and she just might on Saturday. Benedetta, Jeff's pick in the Sorrento, trying to beat Baffert. You know, Baffert's won the Sorrento 7 times, Jeff, but not since 2015. I mean, a drought for Baffert since 2015 in a 2-year-old stakes race in Southern California. You don't see that often. So you're all right to go against Dua in this spot.
Well, I think he's more interested in the Colts now. I mean, he might have 10 Colts out there right now that could win just about any stake out here. But the Phillies, that's kind of an afterthought for him right now, I think.
Let's turn the page to race number 9 at Del Mar on Saturday for the Yellow Ribbon, grade 2 in here. And this is the field that's only got 11 starts between them at Del Mar on the turf, 2 victories. So it's not a group that's like horse for course. It's not that same group rematching against each other in the filly and mare turf division that we often see in Southern California. So a little bit different stuff to handicap here, maybe some different ways to look, Jeff. And I know you're looking at a filly who's never been in Southern California at this point. She's the Brad Cox expatriate, Turner Loose. She's trained for a long time in Southern California now with Phil D'Amato. Tell us about her.
Yeah, she's been here. This was a breeze that we saw her on the dirt, but that's why I liked it. She's on the inside and she's under a really tight hold, and it's not like she's going in 103. This was a minute flat, obviously capable of going better. You can see her just kind of pulling the jock out of the saddle and winning the work by a length and then galloping out really well. So even though she has not been out since October, now she's been with Phil for a while, and Phil's kind of cranked her up for this race. Why not? Why wouldn't you? A grade 2. Mm-hmm. And from where she's drawn, she's going to draft in and get a great trip. There's speed outside, but not blazing speed. Right. And so I think, I mean, I'm looking at her form from last year. She's a 4-year-old making her 4-year-old debut. She ran with the best last year and was a Group 2 winner there. And, I just think that she's got a chance to be a fresh face and a good 4-year-old filly. And she's 8-1 on the morning line, Jeremy. She shouldn't be that high. I'm telling you. Yeah. I mean, these are horses that she's running with that aren't that great. I like Turner Loose, and I think she's going to get turned loose. And what we just saw from that workout tells me that she is sharp and ready.
And don't be surprised if D'Amato fills out the ticket, right? He's got School Dancing here as well as Lucky Girl. Didn't he run 1, 2, 3, 4 in a stakes there at Del Mar just like a week ago? So don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if he takes the top 3 spots. Of course, he won this race last year, the Yellow Ribbon, with Going Global, who had a lot more credentials. Going Global was a really well-known commodity. He's coming in this year with a little bit more of a question mark, but I think Turner Loose top end maybe better than these. My old buddy Awake at Midnight in here. They just don't know what to do with her, right? I mean, they're going to try her a mile and a 16th on the turf. She ran okay last time in the Oceanitas, trying the mile on grass. She's kind of done a little bit of everything in her career, and she just tries no matter what. I just like Awake at Midnight. I'm not saying she's going to win this race, but man, she's about as honest as they come. She gets in nice and light at 119, but they're all kind of carrying feathery weights in this one. 122, the high weight in the Yellow Ribbon handicap.
One of the things is, if you look at her form, she's a really good filly, and she's in the last 2 years she's 1 for 13. And you might say, well, she's all right, she doesn't want to win. No, I mean, there's no program for her. It's like there's a stakes race, throw her in. Sprinting on the dirt, throw her in. Running long on the grass, throw her in. Send her to the front, take her back, move her here. Go to Los Al, send her to Keeneland. I mean, this poor filly doesn't know if she's coming or going. She's a good filly, but I don't get what they're doing with her.
You get the feeling that if she gets going and gets like 1 or 2 in a row, like one of those confidence boosts, or finds the right group, she's one who could rattle off a little bit, and all of a sudden you go, man, where'd that come from? And it was kind of there all along, but she just kind of, like you said, has been put every which way but loose throughout the course of her career. But she's honest and she tries, and hopefully she gives a good account of herself again in the Yellow Ribbon. Let's move to Sunday's action now, as we've got a couple races to handicap for August 13th. The Ellis Park Debutante is race number 5 on the card at Ellis. It's the first of 6 straight great stakes races, as we mentioned earlier, on a big program Sunday at Ellis Park, including the Ellis Park Derby, the Groupie Doll, a lot of divisions represented, the Ellis Park Juvenile, a lot of good races Saturday at the Pea Patch. You Almost Had Me is the headliner that Jeff wants to spotlight for the Ellis Park debutante. Let's go back and watch her win in the Kentucky Juvenile against the boys.
He shrugged it off willingly and goes by the quarter pole in front by 3 now. You Almost Had Me in front, heading for the 8th pole. Tranche is back in second. Lose Legacy in third. The rest with Too Much to Do. And You Almost Had Me is on cruise control. You Almost Had Me wins big. Under the wire by 8 lengths in the end.
Familiar, you saw the same thing in April at Keeneland when she debuted for John Hancock. Like, you could almost bet the phone was ringing before the winner's circle to buy her off John Hancock when she won that career debut at Keeneland. She went to Cutter Racing and now to Brad Cox in that win in the Kentucky Juvenile. That's one where John had himself quite a 2-year-old filly, and people knew it afterwards and went after her.
Yeah, she was privately sold after that first start at Keeneland when she won by 8, and quick dividend there, and she comes back and pulverizes her field again, running 5/8 and 57 and 2, and never getting out of a gallop. And I think I don't know the backstory behind her, but it seems to me that they are. I don't know whether the plan was to keep her out, because you can see after that May 4th win, she breezed again May 21st, and then didn't breeze for almost 2 months. I don't know if she come up with a shin or got sick or something. And so I'm going to assume that she's not 100% cranked up, but does she really have to be? I mean, let's face it. I mean, this is a spot where she should be able to pick up. It's going 7/8 of a mile. And I'm just going to give Brad Cox the benefit of the doubt here. And despite the fact that she hasn't been out and the work tab is light, I don't think he would run her unless he thought she was fit enough to go 7/8. Interesting, she was a $12,000 yearling by Oxbow, who I don't even think is in this country anymore. And yet I can't imagine them not giving a ton of money for this filly.
They got a lot more than 12 after the debut win.
The best. And when we talk about the final race on our card, the Baffert horses, and we'll contrast what those contenders cost as yearlings or 2-year-olds and what this one cost. Two sides of the spectrum there, but I like her. I mean, she's a big, good-looking filly. I mean, being by a Preakness winner, she should run on. And I don't think there's a gamble here at 3 to 5 on the morning line, but I'll be watching because I'm still looking. There's been a couple now, but 2-year-old fillies just haven't jumped out yet. You know what I'm saying, Jeremy? And we're looking for some kind of leader in the division, and You Almost Had Me might be able to secure that spot if she comes back and runs as well here as she did in the spring.
If they can't beat her, you want to join her in the exotics. You got a field of 10. I got a trio of long shots to keep an eye on here. Number 10, Hot Beach, is 10 to 1 in the morning line. This horse was really hot on the tote first time out for Brian Lynch. Trouble at the start, down inside in a good-sized field of 9. Now gets to the outside. Bullet work since the debut. I love to see that in the second career start with a bullet since the debut. I think Hot Beach outside has a real license to run well. And then keep an eye on 2 big prices, the 3 and the 4 in here. Grace Given and Distratus. They're trained by John Ortiz and Fausto Gutierrez. They ran 1-2 in this race last year. They're back again with new fillies at a time of the year when they get their horses to peak for a good money race at Ellis Park. Both of those, I think, have a shot in here. And, of course, John Ortiz has already had a great summer with the 2-year-old fillies. He had Brightwork win the Adirondack last week at Saratoga, so his are going well. He gets to separate them. So 10, 3, and 4, 3 price horses for you to use perhaps underneath. You Almost Had Me, the logical top choice in the 5th at Ellis Park on Sunday. Now, if you're betting that race Sunday at Ellis Park, we've got a bonus for you with Express Bet and First Bet. If you bet $50 on the Ellis card and $50 on the Emerald Downs card, which features the Long Acres Mile, $50 on each of those 2 cards, you'll get a $25 rebate back in your account. So a 25% rebate if you just bet $50 at Ellis and $50 at Emerald Downs on Sunday. Again, Long Acres Mile Day Sunday at Emerald Downs. John White's got his picks and analysis for the race at his his old stomping grounds. So check out John White's blog at Express Bet and First Bet in the blog section to get some extra analysis on the race at Emerald on Sunday. But that's a great promo. Bet $100, get 25 back in your account. $50 has to be bet at Ellis, at least 50, and at least 50 has to be bet at Emerald on Sunday, August 13th, in order to get that $25 wagering credit put back in your account. Great incentive to play there. Jeff's got one more race to handicap, and it's the Best Pal. And there's not a lot of handicapping involved in this one, because if Muth runs as well as he did in the career debut, Trevor Dedman's going to be enunciating the U very long, just like Frank Miramati did.
They're at the top of the stretch, and it's Muth with an 8-length lead. El Magnifico trying to complete the exacta, but it's a one-horse race. Say hello to Muth, who romps in his debut. Muth, very professional and very fast. El Magnifico's second best. Harry Houdini and Osage Creek.
About that call, and I didn't notice it until just now, as the crowd starts yelling Muth back down the stretch. Is it like they're not booing somebody, they're boothing, and but an impressive win there. And Trevor will be moving like a winner with his signature calls with Muth. Does anybody get in the way of this son of Good Magic, who's had just an incredible year this year? Of course, Mage, Blazing Sevens, Reincarnate. What a 3-year-old crop for Good Magic. Now he's got another crop here with Muth, who could be as good as any of them.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was by Baffert's barn before this colt ever ran, and I said, that Good Magic colt that you gave $2 million for, how's he doing? And this is like in May or something, how's he doing? And he says, turn around. I turned around, and 2 feet behind me was Muth. He says, there he is. So I said, oh, glad he didn't kick me. But this is a colt that obviously all the rage. He won that race by 9. He earned a 90 buyer number. He never took a deep breath. The colt that's just outside of him, the other Baffert, Prince of Monaco, he was about as visually impressive in his win at Los Al as Muth was in his win at Santa Anita. And Prince of Monaco he's awfully good too, although when asked which one he wanted to ride, Juan Hernandez, who rode them both, said, are you kidding me? I'm not jumping off Muth.
Right.
So he's got 2 chances there, and Pratt's going to ride Prince of Monaco. And this is what you get when you try to buck Baffert at Del Mar with 2-year-old colts. You can't beat him in the maiden races. You have no chance in the stakes.
Yeah.
You might show up and try to fill the field with 3 others, is what's happened here. But basically, this is an inner squad game between the 2 Bafferts. And but Muth, I think, is quicker than Prince of Monaco, and I think he'll probably dominate. And now it's just a matter of how they perform and what kind of chances they have of stretching out based on pedigree. Muth, being by Good Magic, probably has a better chance to do so eventually than Prince of Monaco, who is a Speightstown colt. But they're both really, really good. And, this is what, if you want to play against the big boys, this is usually what you have to spend to do it. $2 million for Muth and a paltry $950 for Prince of Monaco.
If you're like a little bit concerned, how will he handle Del Mar? They both have a couple works over the track that look fine on paper. But Muth sire Good Magic last year sired the Sorrento winner at Del Mar Vegas Magic. So he had a 2-year-old winner in Stakes Company at Del Mar last year with that first crop, and now back with another Muth. So even on pedigree, you say there should not be any problem with Del Mar at all with Muth. Then he looks awfully tough in the Best Pal Stakes. The Best Pal, of course, to prep for the Del Mar Futurity at the end of the season, but maybe on to bigger and better things for some of these who may have Breeders' Cup juvenile aspirations. Certainly a big win by Muth in here would probably put him to the head of the class in the 2-year-olds nationally and make him the favorite at this point for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. That's going to wrap up our coverage of Thoroughbred Stakes handicapping from Jeff Siegel on Saturday and Sunday this coming week. Jeff, I know you're going to be busy in the blog section as well with all your Saratoga and Del Mar.
Yeah, we got full card analysis, wagering strategies for both Saratoga and Del Mar. Saratoga, it's hard because I've done a lot of work and half the field scratches out, so it kind of leaves the analysis moot. But hopefully we'll have good weather, so we'll have that posted in the morning for both Del Mar and Saratoga, the full card analysis there. We'll do that throughout the remainder of the season for both tracks. And so we'll be doing that. Check that out at ExpressBet. It's always free. Use it as a guide or however else you want to use it. So we'll be doing that. And that, trust me, that's a lot of work, but it's a labor of love.
Jeff's got you set for Friday at both of those venues. And Friday night, the Dan Patch Stakes, the big one at Hoosier Park, is our harness feature this week. And Al Samagli, our harness handicapper, is going to take you through the field for the Dan Patch here with this preview video. Get to know the leading contenders for the big one in Indiana tonight.
I'm going to share some thoughts on this Friday night's Dan Patch Free-for-All at Hoosier Park. Has a $310,000 purse and features 11 older pacers, with the track taking the top 10 earners per conditions of the race, and also added Line Drive Hanover as an invite per stakes conditions. The headliner is carded as race 13. I'm taking a look at 6 of the 11 entries. Going to start with the rail horse of Buckabed Hanover, 8-1 in the program. Just when you think this millionaire is going to string together a few wins, he falters. He did win the Gold Cup at Mohawk in a snappy 147-2, then burned money in the last 2 races. This will be the 5th start this year and gets a new set of hands in Scott Zera. We will see if the Andrew Harris trainee connects or disappoints and is 0-for-4 at Hoosier, but should offer a fair price. The 2 is a long shot. Tell Me About It, 15-1 in the program. This 7-year-old has won 27 of 89 at Hoosier, but the form in the last 2 races has been dull. Has a 147-4 mark at Hoosier, and if comes with a top try, could hit the ticket. Michael Lusting has the gate speed to hold positions off the rail if this horse comes with a big try, and could get sucked around at a price and add juice to the gimmicks. The 6, Line Drive Hanovers, 9-2 in the morning line, came a close second to Charlie May at Scioto in the Sendin Stakes, leading from post 7. That was a big try. Has shown 147 speed at Mohawk and has never raced here. Canada's top pilot James McDonald's in to drive the Tony Beaton entry and should be a main player if takes to the Hoosier surface. The 8 horse Little Rocket Man, 7-2 in the morning line. This is the older of 2 local favorites, the other being Ponda Warrior. Rocket holds a season mark of 147-3 at Scioto and has won 12 of 16 in 2023, beating up on Open Company here and in Ohio. Also holds a 147-2 mark at Hoosier Park, taken at the age of 4. This 7-year-old would probably go faster today, but leaving from this post could be a challenge. The 10 horse is Charlie May, 3-1 in the program. This is the tepid morning line chalk. Has made 7 starts this year and has won twice while hitting the board in 6 of 7. Comes off 2 big wins, one at the Meadowlands for the 9-hole in the Houghton, and the last start on July 29th from post 6 at Scioto in the Sendin pace. You can never count out this 5-year-old. In 4 starts this year, he's left from the 6, 7, and 8, 9 post, and tonight he draws the second tier and he'll leave from post 10. But this horse has a big heart. His regular driver, Brett Miller, knows how to negotiate those less than perfect starting spots. And I think that with a good steer, if he gets off the gate, this horse should be heard from late in the mile. The 11, Ponda Warrior, 12-1 in the program, another local favorite, and there are some question marks. Raced in last year's Breeder Crown and came 5th, and then won a couple of starts before being put away in late November. Resurfaced with a qualifier way back on April 5th, then didn't come back to action for 2 more qualifiers starting on July 19th. Did beat Open Company in his season debut on August 4th in 148-4. Gets a new set of hands tonight in Kyle Wolfong. Will need a strong steer from the second tier, but Wolfong is more than capable. Is the Jay Hochstetler trainee ready to battle against this kind in the second start of the year? We will know soon. Should be a solid price. It could be in the mix if the fractions are sizzling and is in range turning for the wire. I'm not feeling like any of the Ron Burke entries could win on Friday unless they have a form reversal. Burke's trio of entries are This Is the Plan, Luz, Perlman, and Southwind Gendry. Southwind Gendry has won 2 of 4 here, but his best right now might not be good enough to beat this crew, even though he drew the 5-hole. I'll have comments and selections for the Dan Patch posted on expressbet.com on Friday. Have a great weekend and good luck.